Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Please follow me on Twitter and join my official Telegram announcements channel. Also, please follow me on bittube.video. You can also follow me on Odyssey. These are both censorship-resistant platforms, and every now and then I am going to post a video which isn't going to be on YouTube. Hi, everybody. This is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. And today, I am with the Silver Guru, because gold, whether it's silver, whether it's a cryptocurrency, we are talking about real, tangible, non-counterfeit sound money. Hey, David, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Well, CR, it's good to be back with you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And we did a video, I think about a month or so ago, and we talked about what you were doing with Load One. And I'll have the link in the description below, ag.load.one, which is a cryptocurrency project that's backed by Silver that you're involved with. Silver and gold, right? Which is good because then it's dual backed. And in that, we covered a lot about the value of silver. I invited you back on because I just wanted your commentary and your overview on what is happening in the world in terms of the money markets, hyperinflation, the money in printing, the debt ceiling, silver and gold staying like this. Because, of course, nobody in an inflation environment wants to buy any physical.
Yeah, that's quite a mouthful. What is going on? Well, I don't know.
There you go. Now, if you want more of David's wisdom, I'll have all the links in the description below. David, thank you so much. Bye.
It's such a big, it's something very difficult to bite on, and of course I will. But what we're really seeing is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, and so this is always in the markets as volatility. Uncertainty shows up as I'm in gold one day. No, gold's not it. I'm going to go back to Bitcoin. No, Bitcoin's not it. I'm going to go back into the stock market. No, stocks aren't it. I have to go safety bonds. No, bonds aren't it. So there's a lot of money seeking safety or seeking certainty, and there is no certainty at this point in time. What is the most certain, from my perspective, this is my opinion, is the precious metals, because they have a history of thousands of years, whereas the crypto space has a history of more than a decade. However, that doesn't mean that they, cannot be a safe haven. Obviously, the market votes. The market votes with whatever currency is in your jurisdiction. And with that currency, you vote with that. So a lot of safety or perceived safety has moved into the crypto space. And as you said, the metals seem to be flat, although there was a lot of buying of physical in 2020, and that continues into 2021. It's just not being reflected in the current price, especially when measured in US dollars. If you measure the precious metals in other currencies, such as the Canadian dollar, as an example, I mean, gold and silver look pretty darn good, but in the US terms, not so much. I also am a little bit concerned with the Bitcoin situation. I have been, we put Ether on in our recommendations, kind of right before the big launch. I think it's up like 1,400% or something. Also put a couple of stock recommendations that are easy for my premium members to just buy stocks, because it's basically an equity-based newsletter with a lot of commentary on world affairs and geopolitical and finance, obviously. And those are doing well also. But the idea with China saying, that they're not going to accept Bitcoin, now they've done this in the past, and I'm aware of that. However, what concerns me this time is I'm paying a little more attention to it, and you probably have more of a background in, in the blockchain Bitcoin space than me. Maybe not, but the point I'm making is that it seems different to me this time, because China's mine's about 60% of the Bitcoin, and then Iran and a couple other countries that are favorable to the CCP. If you add those together, you got about 70% of the market is on that side of the table. So if, and I'm using the word if, it were to compromise, even for a small amount of time, the let's say the ability to mine or the ability to transact, more importantly, it could have an impact. Let me just carry on with one more thought. I've said for years, CR, as you know, that I believe that the Bitcoin proponents are correct. I don't think you can stop Bitcoin. I don't think you can close it down. The only way you're going to close it down is, an EMP that takes out the entire internet or something. However, my position, until proven wrong, is that they can do what governments are famous for, which means restricted. And I mean specifically, oh, you can have your Bitcoin account, but you can't buy a house with it. You couldn't get a mortgage with it. You couldn't get utilities with it. You can't get an auto loan. So anything that's in mainstream finance, where you get a loan for a house, loan for a car, loan for a business, utility, communication like your cell phone, any of that, you can't do it directly with Bitcoin. You have to go through the government's, digital currency or whatever. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't do a peer-to-peer, Lamborghini purchase with someone that's a Bitcoin owner or wants to be, and they're going to exchange their privately held, title to an automobile and exchange for Bitcoin. That will take place, and I don't think that will be restricted. But that would be the minority. Most people are tied to the powers of the money power, meaning that you have to, like let's say utilities. That's a good example because everybody pretty much is on the grid one way, shape, or form. So you could be a billionaire, crypto Bitcoin billionaire, but when you need to hook up your utilities and your account is only Bitcoin, you're going to have to change some of that into the local currency in order to get your electric, your gas, and your water hooked up. So that's my position. I'm not trying to diss anything. I'm free market. My first article on my 2 Bits About Bitcoin was, who cares what I think about it? Let the market decide. The market's spoken very clearly. Bitcoin is loved at this point in time. I mean, it's gone up to what? 65,000, I think, was a high, and we're out about 42 now.
4,000 before dropping, yeah. And this is from when the first Bitcoin purchase was 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. Her first transaction. Yeah. Now, you said a whole load there. Now I want to respond to some of it, and then move the conversation on. So let's working backwards with regards to what's happened in China and the China transacting. So China's done this before. I think the first time was in 2017, and Bitcoin has risen $40,000 since then, since the first China ban. Then I thought the mining had moved out of China, and even if it hasn't moved out yet, if China bans it. And it will move out because of the free market, because people will earn Bitcoin. It'll become more profitable to mine Bitcoin in places with higher electricity. It might even get profitable enough for me to mine Bitcoin with the solar panels that I got in my house in England. Mm-hmm. It isn't as yet, right? But if there's fewer miners, then the rewards are much, much higher between those that are mining. So the free market will balance it out, but it could take some time. Then with regards to transacting outside of, if the governments stop the fiat on-ramp and off-ramp, there's, I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Luongo, the Gold Goats and Guns, but I definitely recommend you should check him out. He comes on my channel once a month or so, and we talk about this. One of the things he says is that Wall Street wants to get in onto DeFi. Mm-hmm. It's the only way they got of making money really anymore, right? Because there's nothing anywhere else. They've ruined all the other markets through the money printing. They want to get in on the DeFi action. And I can't remember how many billions of dollars are locked into DeFi. So while the governments may want to restrict it, you've got the banks, the investment banks that want to share they want a cut of what's happening in the Bitcoin world. They don't want to leave it to cypherpunks and people like you and I. So there's that. Then something about the silver, the physical supply that I want to expand with you a bit more about how that's going. I've noticed that one of the supplies that I've regularly used in the UK for buying silver, it's not on their website. It's just not on their website. So that suggests to me that silver's in short, the physical supply is in short order. So I'd like you to say something about what's happening there, and how do you know, and how can you tell, and who's the one? I imagine it's rich family funds and high net worth individuals who are front running the retail investor. Because the retail investors are dumb. They'll come in when the price is really, really high. And I don't mean that pejoratively, but they just don't know. They don't know what's going on. So that's my response to you. And then also, I think we can go on to talk about hyperinflation, because I do think we're in the beginning stages of the accelerated increase and what that might mean for gold and silver and Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is a proxy for cryptocurrencies. Over to you, David.
All right. Well, good. Now, first of all, I think the best point that you made was, Wall Street and DeFi, because, how did I time our Ethereum and our crypto purchases and our speculative part of the portfolio so accurately? And it was, they do ring a bell. I know exactly what I wrote. I said, when Wall Street's on board now, with Wall Street on board, this is going to go. And if I remember correctly, Bitcoin is sitting around the $10,000 or $11,000 level. And then I saw early, because I do study these markets pretty carefully, and I said, Wall Street's on board. So I wrote in my report, Wall Street's on board. We don't know how high it's going to go, but it's going to go. And I prefer Ethereum over Bitcoin. I don't have time to go into the reasons why, but we did throw Ethereum on there, and it's actually outperformed Bitcoin, as you know, from that time frame. And then you asked about silver. Yeah, the market in the metals, I hate to use the excuse of manipulation, but it's not an excuse. I don't like to throw the manipulation card out there every time I'm interviewed, because it sounds like you're whining, and there are people that don't believe it, even though there's been court cases and people have been punished and fined for it. They still don't think it exists, which is, some kind of cognitive dissonance that I don't understand. But you're correct. The retail investors usually chase markets, and that's true of not just silver. It's true of the stock market, the real estate market, the tech wreck, the Japanese stocks, you name it. Usually the herd mentality takes place near the end of the cycle, and everybody rushes in at the top. Having said that, yeah, there's a lot of institutions that bought silver in 2020. A lot. 320 million ounces of silver was bought through the ETPs, exchange traded funds, last year.
Sorry, David, can you name some of them, or how would you know? How does anybody know?
You don't know exactly. I mean, some of them you can see that are transparent, like it's not a fund, it's a bank, like the Zurich Continental Bank. You can see them, but you can't know what, hedge funds, large family offices, large investors, pension funds, money managers are in there. All you see is that the SLV added this many ounces of silver to their stockpile, but you cannot break it down unless it's the reporting level, which the SEC requires, which is, 5% of the outstanding stock. I believe it's 5%, and then you have to report. So you can look that up. I haven't taken the time to do it. I know that, Guggenheim is invested pretty well in silver. I don't know how much, if it's 1% of their portfolio or, above 5, I don't know. But when Scott Maynard was asked in January of 2020, so going back more than a year and a half, what was his go-to investment for that year? He said silver. And the Bloomberg interviewer said, silver, why not gold? And he explained that silver was a much better value than gold at that time. So we don't know exactly who, but we know, institutions is a broad-based word, meaning exactly that, funds, fund managers, banks, family offices, sovereign wealth. There could be a pension fund or two that are smart enough to get in the silver market, not the gold market, or have both or whatever. But the point that we do know as a fact is it's way beyond what the normal allocation is. So this is smart money buying near bottom for probably long term.
And are they buying physical, or are they
physical?
Okay.
Well, they're buying ETFs, which they are purportedly, backed by physical. I mean, the PSLV is the favorite by the market. The Sprott Physical Silver Trust. The SLB is the most popular, held by a lot of, bullion banks, JP Morgan, et cetera, and, their vaults and others. So we don't know, again, exactly whom, but we have a pretty good feel for, large players.
All right. But if they keep buying up physical and it's being held on their behalf through this ETF, at some point, because there's diminishing supplies of physical, more being bought than is coming on market. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to say, wait a minute, we don't have it anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a real fine line there that's really important. I mean, this is one of the more important ideas that is very seldom talked about and in my opinion, less understood. And that is the manufacture of pseudo silver, which means a derivative of some type. So there was Morgan Stanley years ago was paid a large fine, not for manipulation, basically for fraud, which they should have gone to jail, in my opinion, but I digress. So Morgan Stanley admitted that they had taken on all these silver accounts for silver and were charging storage fees, and they never had an ounce of silver, and they didn't have a vault. And they were caught, and all they did was pay a fine. But that's the least interesting part of the story, because the most interesting part of the story was what they said. And what they said was, this is basically standard practice in the industry. We didn't do much wrong. Now think about that. They took all these people that trusted a Main Street broker, large one, to store their silver, were paying storage fees, and the company never bought any silver, let alone what a lot of them do is when you buy quote unquote physical silver, they'll put a hedge in the futures market. So you say, Crypto Rich says, I'm buying 5,000 ounces of silver. So the XYZ bullion dealer says, okay, we got you 5,000, we're storing it, and we're going to charge you a fee. And all they do is they buy one futures contract a year out. And so now they've leveraged their money, depending on what the broker requirements are, 10 to 1, 100 to 1. I mean, a large institution like that usually has very favorable margin requirements. So they have pennies on the dollar they have to put up. So they just put that in their book. And as far as you are concerned, you've bought physical silver and helped the market. No, all you've done is help create fictional silver that depresses the market because you've created more silver on the books than exists in reality. So the only way to rectify this is to get the invested silver into a pile and start counting it ounce by ounce. So anyone that has like an account like that would be really much better off to take delivery. Or the easiest thing to do is sell it. Call Morgan Stanley, you've been storing my silver. Of course, they're frauding people. And this is, obviously pretends that ahead of time. But you sell it, and then you take that money that is equivalent to the silver price on that day, and you buy it from buy it from a dealer and take physical possession and put it in your own backyard. Or at least put it in a storage facility that exists and it's there and you can go visit it or whatever. If that were to occur, you are actually determining what the investable silver supply is. Because right now, the investable silver supply is much smaller than what the accounting methodologies will show you. And there's been talk of, even in some of the exchange-traded products, how much is really there in physical form, meaning, for an example, that some of the exchange-traded products, by law, allow a COMEX warehouse receipt to be considered physical silver. Now, that one could be a bit of a mind bender because a piece of paper that says you have 5,000 ounces could be valid. It means that, if you own the certificate, you have a claim on the metal that physically exists. The problem is, are we now double counting the silver? Does the COMEX say, I own this 5,000 ounces, it's resting in my vault, so you take a look at it. And the ETP is saying, there's my 5,000 ounces, I own the certificate, take a look at it. And I believe that goes on all the time. But I say believe. I'm not saying I know for a fact. But this was brought to my attention 30 years ago, probably, not longer than that, Crypto Rich, with a guy named Paul Sarnoff. Well, I talked about all the double counting that had taken place in the silver market. Yeah. And let's just say one more thing. I'm on a bit of a roll here, so I'm going to continue rolling down the road.
Go for it.
One time the U.S. market had, I forget the number, I think it was 3 billion ounces of silver. Maybe it was 5. It was a large number. And a lot of that was bullion, but a lot of it was coin. Well, back when I was a youth, there were 2 silver markets on the COMEX. One was called silver, and the other was called the silver bag market. The silver bag market were physical bags of silver. Excuse me as I bend over. This is a mini version here. That's $100 in dimes. So imagine 10 of those. So a bag of silver was in a bag, but much bigger. And it was $1,000 face value. So you could trade physical bags of silver on the exchange. Now, I don't know how much existed at that time, but we'll just throw out a number like $3 billion worth of silver. Well, so much of that bag silver was taken off the exchange for coin dealers that made a living by selling silver, both bullion and coins, that they had to close down the bag market. It hasn't existed for years. Now, it did exist in the Hunt Brother days. And if you read Paul Sarnoff's book, Silver Bulls, there's a very interesting couple of paragraphs in there. And at one time, when Bunky was taking physical possession off the exchange, they didn't have enough silver to fulfill it because he was buying silver, meaning bullion. And the exchange called him and said, basically, we don't have that much silver to give you right now. Will you accept bags instead? And he said yes. Had he said no, it might have blown up, and the whole silver story at that time might have a different ending than what it did.
Wow. Wow. And what you said about the what JP Morgan did, what an incredible...
Morgan Stanley.
Sorry, Morgan Stanley. What an incredible, lucrative, fraudulent business that is. Because I could do that with anything. You want to buy a car? You want to buy? I'll keep it in my garage for you. I got a Lamborghini for you, David.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And it wouldn't be allowed in any other business except when it comes to banking, because now what you're talking about is fractional reserve silver. And then I understand in the LBMA, gold gets rehypothecated. I don't know how many number of times, infinite number of times, because London has no gold. The UK has no gold. We sold it Brown's bottom. Now, the other thing I wanted to say was about the silver coins that you got. Since 1964 coins in the US are, how was it, 75%?
90% silver.
90% silver. And in the UK, in fact, throughout the Commonwealth, pre-1918 coins are 92.5% silver. So if anybody's
sterling silver is 92%.
That's right. So if anybody's got any pre-1918 British coins or Indian coins or Australian coins, that's sterling silver and pre-1964. Are they still available in the US? Are they still in?
Yeah, you could find some. I mean, you couldn't get them in large quantities, to my knowledge, but they exist. I mean, it's very interesting how, going again back to the conversation about how much physical silver is there in the coin market, meaning old coins, circulating money at one time. We're on a silver standard. In fact, as I digress just a minute, the Silver Symposium is going to be starting tomorrow.
I am going to try and get this out in time for that. So we're recording this on Sunday, the 26th of September, and the Silver Symposium is Monday, the 27th of September.
And 27th. And 28th.
Do you want to give details about that?
So I'm going to be speaking about the silver standard because very few people are really familiar with it. So part of my lecture is on the silver standard. But back to your main point, the silver community needs to get real with the real. In other words, anyone that's out there, and even on the exchange traded products, I think it would behoove some of these large institutions that own the derivative, a stock certificate that represents silver on the shelf, to maybe do a little bit of a deep dive and determine exactly what their bar numbers are or something like that. There's got to be better accountability because, again, a lot of this has been how much has been double counted, I don't know. Paul Sarnoff's belief was there was a great deal of it. My belief is more than one, it's too many. And, first of all, there's got to be truth in all the financial markets. I mean, am I about silver? Yeah, that's how most people see it. I'm really about truth in the financial system. I'm about truth generally. But I've made my whole life and career about truth in the financial system. I mean, that's my mandate. That's my mission statement. My mission statement is to teach and empower people to understand the benefits of an honest financial system. Silver isn't in my mission statement. My mission statement has to do with telling the truth from the top down, because if we allow the money power to go away from the people into the elite, and money is power and power is control, then they control us. And that's how they do it. And that's how they've done it for thousands of years. But if the people have the money, like we had at one time, more or less, on a silver standard, where commerce was actually conducted by putting coins on the table, and I paid for my restaurant or my car or my rent or whatever in physical silver, you actually got power put back into the people's hands. Now, will we ever go back to that? I doubt it. Will crypto, I think, and of course I'm biased, but it's crypto rich and you're very open to ideas. And we have a conversation, and we don't have to agree on everything, but just think of it and, critique me. But having the ability to blockchain physical silver is pretty cool. The only thing that is, raises your eyebrows would be, well, is it really there or can you trust it? Which is a very, very valid question. My question is kind of an add-on to that. Well, if you're so scared about, who's doing a crypto-backed, precious metals account, what about Morgan Stanley? That was completely fraud. What about these ETPs? What about your local, dealer storage program? So if you're concerned about
currency. Just fiat currency, that's completely fraudulent. And Sorry, I cut you off. Please.
No, you're good. No, you go. I made my point. I just think that there's an opportunity here that a lot of people don't see, that as this crypto space develops further, there'll be a propensity to say, be real, get real, buy real. And they're buying real crypto that's backed by an asset that they understand. Silver's pretty simple to understand. And is that your whole crypto portfolio? Hell no. Maybe it'll just be 10% of your crypto assets. You've got, 60% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, some Theta, and you've got some, crypto that's backed by real metal. If that were to occur, and I believe it will, but, I'm biased. I'm involved with one, as you know, ag.load.1. Could have a solid impact, especially if it actually has the metal to back it up, which it does. I mean, if you think about it in real terms and project what's going to happen over the next decade in this new monetary system, we have the ability, I would say we, and I mean we, the people of the planet. I'm not biased to any particular phase of humanity. I'm pretty open. We're humans. To vote with your local currency, put it into wherever you want, but highly consider what owning real money on a blockchain could mean for you and your family in the future. Absolutely.
And I'll have the links for ag.load.1. And people want to know more about it, they should go check out the previous video I did with Dave when he talked about it, which is it's a silver-backed cryptocurrency that you can use to buy and spend, and as you would any other currency. But it's honest. I think the distinction is honest or sound money. And the way I understand it, and I think you would get this, and it's not quite sure I'm going to articulate it correctly, right? But because my background is social work, that's what I'm trained in, right? Not finances. But what money essentially is, it's a communication, it's a conversation. It's a measure of the energy that I've expended in a particular activity to either provide a service or make a product, expressed as a unit of value that others agree on.
Well said. And then you could store it for the future. I mean, most people aren't megalomaniacs or elitists or, bankers. And I'm not trying to diss all bankers. There's some very good people that don't even understand the banking system, even though they work in it. But the idea is security, especially as you get older. So you just want to have enough energy stored that when you hit 60 or 70 or whatever, that you can take that stored energy and live out a happy life. It's not like you got to have 12, new homes, or, it's just enough to be comfortable and be secure.
Yep.
And that's what money used to represent, was security. If you had enough of it, you were secure going on from, if you were lucky or an entrepreneur and you had enough at 40, you could quote retire at 40. But the idea now is there's so much uncertainty that we don't know. And that's why you see, as we started the whole interview with, about the markets being so volatile. I'm in stocks, I'm in bonds, no, I'm in cryptos, no, I got to do this, because the markets are jumping all over the place, because there is nothing certain other than the unraveling of the current financial system. It is unraveling. I think most people can see it, and they might look at the financial markets and see a big number on the stock exchange. But in their heart of hearts, in the UK, I understand, and I've got several friends there, there's problems with petrol, there's problems with food. We're very agitated. There is pushback on some of these political class that I really despise in almost all countries. I'm pretty much an equal opportunity complainer. I mean, I could complain about your political system, our political system, almost anyone on the planet I could critique. I mean, these people, on balance, on aggregate, most all of them are, I'll just spit it out, I think it's a criminal class. I think it's become a criminal class.
They're liars, and they've built their palaces on a foundation of lies, because sound money is true. It's a true reflection of energy expended, a true reflection of the value in the marketplace, whereas fractional reserve banking or rehypothecated gold and silver is a lie. And then what we've got in a hyperinflationary environment is lies flourishing, magicked out of thin air, that somehow there was this energy expended into this activity that produced this sort of value. No, it's all a lie, and it's crumbling, because without integrity, nothing works. There's no foundation for workability. So I agree with you. I think it's all crumbling. I would recommend people, and one of the ways that it's crumbling is that there's more is the cost of raw materials is going up because the smart traders, they want something tangible, they want something real and honest versus this fraudulent fractional reserve currency, fiat currency that's just being printed away. So I would recommend people go check out the Silver Symposium and go investigate some cryptocurrencies. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin. You can start with a little bit of something else like Litecoin, or of course one of my favorites, Pirate Chain. It's a privacy coin, David.
Well, it's all about privacy, and why don't you tell us more about Pirate Coin and tell me? I'll switch the interview. I'll interview you for a few minutes.
Sure.
The whole idea. I mean, I was privy to Bitcoin very early. I was probably one of the first to read about it. It was from Robert Prechter. And I actually saw Bob face to face a few years after that. I said, God, Bob, I got to hand it to you. You were so early on Bitcoin. I mean, how did you do it? He said, it wasn't me. It was my son. My son is really high in IT and very, very savvy. So he learned it and put it in his newsletter. And I thought about it. I'm going to check it out. I never really did. And I was tipped off quite early with Trace Meyer and some of the more prominent at the early days in the Bitcoin space. I mean, Trace was well known. He spent an hour of his time with me. Oh, okay, I'll do it. I wrote down everything, and I said, I just got sidetracked. So I don't want to make this too much, but the point I want to make is it was decentralized finance and it was private. That's what appealed to me. And of course, since that beginning, it's become almost anything but. I mean, most of these blockchain-based systems, you have to go through some type of exchange, which means a KYC. So it's really not anonymous. So you might be buying this and that, but once you got a KYC, know your customer, you're known. And so it's not like cash. I mean, I can go right now, getting ready for this Silver Symposium and drop by Starbucks and walk in and pay for cash for a latte and get back on the road. And unless they recognize David Morgan, which does happen about once every 5 years. They don't know who the heck I am, and they know it's none of their doggone business, But it's pretty hard to do that in the crypto space outside of some of these private coins. So let me flip it over to you. What ones besides Monero and Pirate are there that are really decentralized private?
Well, I mean, there's many so-called privacy cryptocurrencies, Pirate Chain, Monero, Grin and Beam, many others. In my opinion, and from what I've learned and looked at, the only ones with any real solid privacy is Monero, and in particular Pirate Chain. So Monero uses ring signatures, which means that the transaction goes from your wallet to my wallet, but on the way there are all these false, fake transactions. Like it gets split up. Supposing you're going to send me 100 Monero. It gets split up at 10 into this one, 11 into this one, into these fake addresses. I can't remember. I think there's 12 or something it goes through. 12 fake addresses. So it becomes really, really hard to track. And then there's what's known as an anonymity set, which is the size of transactions that are anonymous. And I think Monero's, I keep forgetting, but it's between 12 and 100 or something. And theoretically, it's possible to work out, certainly with the less private coins like Zcash or Dash, which have optional privacy, where some transactions are private and some aren't. You can work out through data analytics with what has gone where and how, right? Mm-hmm. With Pirate Chain, it uses ZK Snarks, which is a far more superior privacy protocol. I can't even begin to explain it, but it's really, really private. And how it works is, actually, I'll tell you what I did once on my Twitter account. I posted a transaction for Pirate Chain. I said, if you can tell me which address it went from, how much was sent, and which address it went to, and the time of the transaction, you can have whatever was sent. And it wasn't a small amount. Nobody got it. Now with Bitcoin, or Ethereum, I post a transaction. All the information is there. It went from this address to that address, and then I can look inside that address. With Pirate Chain, if I look on the block explorer, the coin is mined. It goes into the first wallet. You can see that transaction, and that's for auditing purposes to make sure the miners aren't counterfeiting extra Pirate Chain. The ticker symbol, by the way, is R, R, which is proper pirate coin, right?
Pirate Lego, yeah.
That's right. But after it's gone into that wallet, you don't know where it's gone. That first address is transparent, but you don't know which Z address, which non-transparent address it's gone to. You don't know how much has gone in. You can't look inside it. You can't track any transactions. There's no data, nothing. And the anonymity set for Pirate Chain, when I last looked, was close to 500,000. So if you think of a haystack, the haystack for Monero is between 12 and 100 blades of straw, and you've got to find the needle. With Pirate Chain, you've got 500,000 blades of straw. Now go find the needle, and the haystack is getting larger and larger with the more transactions. So it's completely invisible. Right? I come to your house. We go into the lounge. We draw the curtains, turn the lights off. You give me a bag of silver. I won't be offended, David, if you give me a bag of silver, and nobody will know except you and I.
Right.
It's that
Crypto Rich, did you ever watch the series Mr. Robot?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask the question anymore. I'm just going to say I watch very little TV, but my youngest daughter said, "Dad, you're really going to like this Mr. Robot." And so I watched like the first 2 episodes, and I was like, about the third one, it hooked me. And I watched the whole series. And what happens at the end is that these hackers basically take on the elite bankers, and it's a crypto system. And they basically take their money or their funds, and they distribute it to the people at large. And they do it through what's called a spinner, whatever that means. That's just a term they use in the TV series. But it did basically what you just outlined is the way I interpret it. And all these people were looking at their crypto accounts on their phones, and all of a sudden they go like, I'll just make that number, 500,000. Wow, I'm not going to debtor's prison anymore. Look at my crypto account. Pretty interesting concept. That series, whoever did the writing on that, and sometimes I wonder where these writers come from. But very interesting. I thought you might have seen it because, with your background being more, I devote time in the crypto space. David Smith writes the blockchain brief, and we've done it for at least 3 years, I believe. And as I admitted, we put some on our speculative portfolio because I saw Wall Street involvement, and I knew it'd just take off. And once Wall Street if Wall Street got behind silver, imagine what would happen. Just think of everybody on Wall Street said, you know what, everyone ought to have 5% of their portfolio in silver or silver-related investment. Think of what the hell would happen to the price of silver. But I digress. Let me hand it back.
Wall Street's probably buying physical on the sly.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had an interview recently, and maybe it was with Cliff High, and we were talking about, the financial system. And I said, what most people don't realize is in the 2008 crisis, the guys lined up at the ATMs were the Wall Street guys. They were scared to death because they knew what was coming and felt it could be the end or the beginning of the end, and sucking out physical cash.
Yep. Okay, David. Listen, thank you so much. We could go on for hours, right?
Of
course. Maybe next time when I speak to you, when you come back on again, right, we can discover more. Because one of the things I notice is a temptation for me over here is to talk about the philosophy of money. Versus what's happening with this particular crypto or that particular crypto. So there's loads we could talk about. Do you want to say something about where people can get your work and something about the Silver Symposium if people want to log in?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to actually use my computer while I'm talking to you. So the best thing to do is go to themorganreport.com and get on our free list, and that's just right at above the fold, as I say. Just give me a first name and your primary email. But if you go to the About tab. I'm checking this as I talk to you. And there's my bio. There's a media kit on there and our website. There's also a film called The Four Horsemen that you can watch for free. So that's on the About tab. But over on the right-hand side, the second block down, it says Top Most Viewed Videos. I want to just mention that. So thanks for giving me the time. One's about a frightening worldwide currency crisis from the movie Rollover. Another one is Silver is the Achilles heel to the entire economic system. I just watched that recently, about 4 days ago. And I did that video 9 years ago. And if you listen to that, of course, this is me selling my own book, so to speak. But if you listen to that, Silver is the Achilles heel to the entire economic system, I think you will be very surprised with what I saw coming 9 years ago. The other one is The Great Silver Market Myth. The other one is Escape the Matrix. And the last one is something else. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's an exclusive on how to buy silver and gold. So there you go. I just want to put that out. I forgot I'd actually have my webmaster put those 5 together, because we've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. But if you're going to spend the time to watch the top 5, you can find it on the About page. So, CR, back to you.
Great, David. Thank you so much. And I'll have those links in the description below. And also, of course, ag.lo.1. Really, really appreciate you coming on. And go check it out, and go check out the Silver Symposium and get a little bit. Silver's so beautiful. It's actually it is better looking than Bitcoin. It's better looking than gold and better looking than Bitcoin. And so just for that, get yourself a little bit of silver and go follow the Silver Guru. David, thank you. And for anybody who's watching, thank you. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the description below. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto and silver profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto David signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.